Jared Paynter was my younger brother, my only sibling, and my best friend in this world. He was a Marine serving in Iraq and Afghanistan in the 2-8 Battalion Echo Company. When his service was over, he struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder and turned to alcohol and stimulator drugs, uppers like cocaine and meth, when his VA hospital prescriptions didn't work. On March 7th at 2 o'clock in the morning, my mother called me. She said Jared overdosed. I then asked my mom the worst question any mother should ever be asked of her own son. I asked, Mom, he's still alive, right? We had no idea he was using heroin. And like millions of other families, we're left trying to understand why. This assignment on heroin addiction gave me the opportunity to try to answer that.
Behind his bedroom door, few people saw 23-year-old David Dawson, a former fashion model, the way he saw himself.
I'd use the mirror to find veins from the reflection. I would count down the seconds until I got high. Normally it's about 15 seconds. And it's almost as if I'd watched the heroin travel up my arm and into my heart and into my brain.
Dawson's opiate addiction started 5 years earlier with a headache.
My ex-girlfriend handed me a Vicodin, and she said only take half. And so I took half, and nothing happened. And so the next day I told her, you know, I didn't feel anything off it. Nothing special happened. I just, my headache didn't really go away either. So she gave me 3 more of them. And then I took 3.5 because I still had the half left over, you know, and I got high.
Dawson had never tried drugs before, but in 1 week he ended up finishing the whole bottle of Vicodin stolen from his girlfriend's mother's medicine cabinet. He didn't realize he was hooked. For several months he stole prescription drugs. Then he began buying on the street. When that got too expensive, his dealer offered heroin.
It's kind of like someone wrapped you in a blanket almost, and you just feel like your whole entire body feels warm and numb at the same time. You know, there's a fine line between overdosing and being okay. You're like half conscious almost. You know, you can be asleep, but you can still hear everything around you.
Pain pills like Oxycontin, Vicodin, and Norcos, like heroin, are opiates. Once in your body, they metabolize as morphine, a highly addictive painkiller. It's an addiction that has gripped Kern County. From 5:30 in the morning until 1 p.m., nearly 300 people will come to this methadone clinic on South Union Avenue to try to kill the urge to use opiates.
Methadone itself is a blocker. It blocks the urges and cravings from using any opiates, which is codeine, morphine. It helps to block those urges where you won't have the will to want to use anymore.
Users say as good as the opiates make you feel, withdrawing from the narcotics is the worst feeling they've ever experienced.
A lot of people tell you it's easier to use and go through those withdrawals.
For Dawson, withdrawal symptoms started 6 to 8 hours after he used. A modeling opportunity in Paris was ruined when he says he ran out of heroin the day before the runway show.
I literally could not get out of bed. And so I missed the showcase and everything. And you just can't eat anything. Nothing tastes good. Nothing sounds good. I mean, even drinking water, it's disgusting.
Millions of people around the world are prescribed pain pills by their own doctors. So how is it that some people start by coming here and end up later buying illegal drugs here?
Did she take this one last night?
In Torrance, pain management specialist Dr. Gregory Smith says some people are born with a predisposition to addiction.
And the truth is it's in the DNA. And at this point in time, I DNA test everybody, because what you see is you'll have 2 people in the same family. One person can take a Vicodin, no problem, for a dental procedure or something like that. The other person takes 1 or 2 Vicodin, and it's like the world opens up to them.
Heroin opened Dawson to a world of frequent trips to Martin Luther King Jr. Park in southeast Bakersfield.
Go there and there's dealers everywhere, and you just flash them like 1, 2, or 3, like how many bags you want. And by the time you walk up to them, they already have it, and you just exchange the money, and you get the drugs, and you go do your thing.
Dawson says he was spending close to $80 a day on heroin, often getting high in parking lots. He was able to maintain a custodian job with the Kern High School district, but struggled making through his 8-hour shift without using.
Since I was around kids, I would really try not to. I mean, I'd shoot up in the morning before I went to work, and then most of the time, I would say a good 90% of the time, I'd wait till after I was off work to shoot up, even though I was starting to go through withdrawal symptoms even that early. You know?
Experts say opiate addiction is one of the easiest drug addictions to hide.
Because your teeth don't get bad, your face don't get bad, you keep your muscles, you keep your strength, you keep going because it's functioning for you.
Dawson eventually quit his job because dealing heroin became an easier way to support his addiction. And despite sitting through drug dare programs in school, he never considered himself an addict.
They don't teach you that in school. I mean, they just teach you that drugs are bad. That's all they teach you, like stay away from drugs the most of your life. They don't teach you what addiction is and how it happens. That never even crossed my mind.
Not even as he watched it happen.
There are some people who have picked up drugs and then walked away, never to use again. But then there are the ones who say they had to see their addiction all the way through, hopefully finding their way out of rock bottom before dying from addiction.
There is still like empty bags and foil and stuff.
For David Dawson, hiding his heroin use was easy, but creating the perfect hit was not.
What people try and get what's called a nod. You just kind of sit there and it's almost like you're unconscious, but you're still mentally there. And that's what a lot of users try and get. And you know, you have to keep increasing your dose, and that's why they overdose, is because they just take too much.
A heroin overdose will slow the user's body down to a point their heart stops beating or their lungs stop breathing.
I was in my ex-girlfriend's car and we were at Carl's Jr. again, and I shot up, and then I immediately knew that I was like overdosing, and so I got out of the car and started running around and trying to get my heart rate back up.
Instead of taking Dawson to a hospital, his ex-girlfriend took him to a drug house where users decided to inject Dawson with methamphetamine.
And then I remember I was still semi-conscious though at this point, so I can hear them talking, but I'm like trapped. Like I can hear them, but I can't move my body for some reason. It felt like ice cubes going up my arm, and I could feel the meth like going into my heart and everything. It was like this explosion, and it just, yeah, it felt like someone dumped really cold water onto my chest, and then I immediately woke up, and I was just like completely sober at that point.
In Torrance, pain management specialist and producer of the documentary American Addict, Dr. Gregory Smith says a person's predisposition to addiction is genetic. He tests his patient's DNA before treating their pain. According to Smith, the DNA test looks at the quality of a person's neurotransmitter receptors and how well they send and receive serotonin and other neuron chemicals, which help a person feel happy.
So if your receptors are not working properly, then it doesn't matter how much serotonin, so to speak, you get, you're still going to possibly be depressed from a chemical standpoint. So if someone has bad receptors for things like dopamine, for GABA, for serotonin, it makes them need more of a substance to feel just even normal. And so these people are predisposed to have an addiction or a substance abuse problem.
Every addiction is bad. To some people it is, but there's alcoholics. You can take grandpa who's been drinking 50 years, you love him to death, but then when brother or sister says, well, I'm addicted to heroin, oh my God, no way. What's the difference?
These addiction specialists say their patients often come through the door alone, with their family and friends unable to understand how their loved ones can't stop themselves from using.
Some people aren't healthy enough to do that. Mainly if you've been using for 20, 25 years, how would you just quit cold turkey?
The problem with the way people are treated in this country right now for substance abuse is it's a cookie cutter. They're put into one program and everyone goes to meetings. These people need to be treated differently because there's different brain chemistry issues with each problem.
Dr. Smith's practice focuses on a combination of different alternative pain management therapies and says he's found great success with a THC cannabis pill that's non-addictive. But federal regulations keep the medical marijuana pill from crossing state lines. In general, Smith says physicians need to change the way they treat pain patients and prescribe narcotics.
You can tell accurately by DNA if a person's going to respond to a certain drug versus another drug. So you could even look at someone and say, you know what, this guy can take Vicodin, but he can't take OxyContin. Or this person may respond to Motrin, but not another anti-inflammatory. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of giving people drugs, because as we know now, when you get a drug from your doctor, it's really an educated guess.
In addition to current treatments, health experts say more national research needs to go into helping a different type of addict. Military personnel with no prior addiction predisposition are returning home from war struggling with heroin addiction.
These are 20-year-old guys, 20 to 25. They walk through that door and it's like, oh my goodness. And to hear what they have been through takes a lot, because they're taught you can't tell nobody. This is your job. This is what you do.
This sort of goes above and beyond genetics, because you can take a person that has no genetic predisposition, but you put them in an abnormal situation like Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, or in combat, and it just changes everything. Because again, trauma rewires the nervous system.
Addiction specialists and recovering addicts say their hope is to change the stigma of addiction. The participants in this story feel addiction is a disease that will be with the patient for life.
With insulin-dependent diabetes, they have insulin-dependent diabetes now, will they have it in 20 years? And the answer is yes, because their insulin is always deficient. So a lot of people that have a genetic predisposition to substance abuse, that does not go away. That's why it's so profoundly important for people to keep their brain chemistry balanced.
Dawson was forced into rehab 4 times, but it wasn't until he says he was ready to quit on his own that he felt confident he could stay sober.
No amount of rehab or forced treatment can bring upon that change. Just it has to come within you.